My access to comics as a kid came from Sunday comic strips and from visiting a yard sale and on a whim buying a Spider-Man comic, then taking that comic home and tracing all the Spider-Man images. It just kind of hooked me from there. I had a mentor who was a painter in the town next to me. He was a retired World War II Marine. He would try to make money with art however he could. Landscape paintings, cartooning. He was one of the few artists I had ever met as a teacher who respected comics. Most teachers saw that as a problem and you had to get into painting or something real. From a very young age, his non-artsy-fartsy attitude stuck with me. One of my biggest comic book influences was Bill Watterson of Calvin and Hobbes. Even though I was too young to understand a lot of the big words Calvin would use, I still knew that there was something on another level about this strip, above and beyond what most of the comic strips were doing. He could draw the shit out of dinosaurs and F-18s and crime noir, just completely outpacing anyone else on the Sunday strip. And he had something to say. I liked the idea of a guy alone in a room doing it himself, a very low-key, very basic operation. I used to love watching Bob Ross as a kid, who did these happy tree paintings of nature and all that stuff. And my father came from art. We would watch that show together. My parents were pretty good at supporting me as long as I took it seriously and as long as I could make money. If I was bad at it, I'm sure they would have gently pushed me into, more piano lessons or something. Before I start working every day, I'll do some sketches, I'll loosen up my wrist, down a couple cups of coffee, and start working. I don't need a window because I'm thinking about things in the stories that are in Japan or in the Civil War. My mind is elsewhere, and I don't mind how small it is because it reminds me that this is such a simple process. It really helps create focus. Having New York outside the door is perfect because whenever I do get frustrated, I can just hit the street, hit a pub, meet some people, and get away from this very quickly. The place I go to for inspiration is Greenwood Cemetery, which is a few blocks from me. It's quiet, there's a lot of green there, fresh air, and within 5 minutes of walking inside of it, you forget that you're in the city. The style of art that I'm mostly known for is a mix of Japanese manga and European type of art with some South American stuff in there. I'm blending some of the best stuff that we don't do in the US and showcasing it to the average Spider-Man or Batman reader. When you draw the Batmobile from a manga/Akira standpoint, you can do things with that car that most artists wouldn't think of. Because I like it old school, I try to stick with the original techniques that we've been using forever. Basic wooden pencil, brush. When it's live and it's really a piece of paper and it's really ink and you really feel sort of that pressure to get the line correct, that demand and that stress I think helps make the art better. I started getting into cars and tech when I bought my motorcycle, a Cafe Racer. I tried to include them anywhere I could into stories. There was a talking head scene. I would have them sitting in a Mustang just to make the page more difficult. It was a chance to show off these skills I was sort of teaching myself. I felt that if I grabbed on with both hands, I could make it part of what I'm known for. I maybe gravitate more towards noir and horror type stuff that has kind of that edgy punk element. That's what I'm good at, that's what I'm known for, so that's what I'll stick to. I had spent years trying to be a certain style. The more friendly you are within that look, the more likely your odds of getting a Batman or a Superman book. I made a pretty good go at it, but I remember really hitting a wall at one point, and the editor was trying to get me to draw more like this other artist. After the third time she asked me, draw more like Artist X, I finally was like, go hire Artist X then. Like, I am not a machine, I'm not a robot, like all that totally stupid punk attitude just kind of came out of me. And I basically said to myself, I'm gonna get fired, but I'm gonna do it with style. So I drew even more like my dirtier artsy self and less like this clean artist that she wanted. Once I did that, it made my life and my career a whole lot better. I started to really resonate with a lot of other artists. Being a writer and an artist allows you to do things with storytelling you normally wouldn't do if you had to hand it off from a writer to an artist to blah 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 down the line. I think singularity in voice is a huge part of some of the best comics I've ever read. I think the piece of art I did that makes me most proud and has the most significance would be my book that I wrote and drew called Punk Rock Jesus. It's rare in this industry to have the opportunity to do something that's completely your own. It's nice to think back to a time when I was doing this where it was just a pure expression of what I wanted to do. To have that feeling where you pause and you put your work aside and you feel like you've accomplished something. I got really lucky, and I'm dying to do it again. My name is Sean Gordon Murphy, and I am a professional comic book artist.